Hey guys, what's up? It's another installment on the 68 fastback. So what have we done? We've got the quarter panel. It's nice and in place, and we also got the wheel housing is nice and in place, and you can see the results of that. Pretty happy with that. I have a bit more welding to do. I got this little panel over here to do. That's not done. And I also have to finish up welding the quarter panel to the actual car, which is going to be using these holes over here. Okay, so you can see that it goes all the way around the quarter panel. After I put the quarter panel on, I sanded it down by this underside, this whole thing. I sanded that down to metal, and then I put weld through primer on that. So that's good to go, and it's ready to weld. What I used for that, if I could find it, is I used this punch. It's a manual punch. I got it off eBay. It cost me $30. It'll last me much longer than my drill bits. So yeah, it's a good tool. It comes with different sizes, and you can basically accommodate whatever within reason you want. How I clamped it, as you can see, all the clamps is on it. There was actually much more, but as I started welding, like here's a weld, and over here's a weld. Basically, I used some body spreaders and put that on both sides so that I don't damage this panel. I also wanted to use these type of clamps instead of like vice grips because they have a flat surface which match the surface, so less likely that I've dented the panel. That was a mistake I learned from this dent over here. So you can see that sucks. So I'm gonna have to use some Bondo on that, but I don't want to use too much Bondo on this car, which is why I'm changing whole sections. Well, other than the fact that they're rusted to hell, but that's why I'm changing more of sections so it could be a more clean look. Yeah, so that's basically what I did on the car, other than this little section over here. This is welded down. This whole thing over here, that's welded in. And just to give y'all some insight, here is cut. You can see through it. This is what's called a relief cut. I had to do that because the panel wasn't lining up properly with a little transition over here, so I was getting too high a bump. So what I did was, this is basically allowing me to push down on this panel, get it perfect before I commit to welding, and then have to do something like put Bondo over here, and then smoothing it out. I, again, don't want too much Bondo, so be wary of that. Got over here is, can't see it too well. Let me get the light. Move the light. You can see that this is the result of me playing and trying to close this damn trunk lid. So, it's on, it closes, the gap is good. The gap is good all the way through. I have a little bit more work to do over here to get this perfect. This is actually a little flexible. I can actually move this up and down a little. And I can also move this still. So there's some spot welds that you can't see that's underneath here that goes across, and I gotta come with my gun underneath and weld in. So as this happens, I'm gonna get a buddy or something, have him pry this up and get this to be perfectly flush, and then afterwards I can weld this in. My trunk gap is good, so I'm not concerned with that. That's more this way, whereas I'm concerned with this way. So This is good. Another thing to be wary of is making sure your tail panel is on the car, because if you put this on and you're slightly off or cocked diagonally a little, this will never go on, and you'll have to remove and do over all that work on your quarter to get this on. It will be a nightmare. So be wary of that. This is still loose. This is just being clamped on with clamps all over the place. What else? What we got up here is, this is welded on. I could bondle this, but I'm not. I don't want this to be porous. I'm going to use the method that they used 40 years ago, except without the lead. I'm going to use lead-free solder and basically get this smooth and seamless so you don't see any of this crap, and it'll look good. And for this over here, since it shouldn't be there, I'm going to put this trim. This is just trim you can buy a set from Mustang Unlimited, NPD, any retailer. This goes like that. Basically, I put this over the old one and cut them together. I cut these two together so that I know that this is perfect where it should be, but there's just too much clay everywhere that you don't know exactly where it should be. So again, I'm using my little technique with putting the trim back on, and once I got the trim on, I'm going to do some spot welds and get it in its true position, and that'll be for that. Another problem I had was when I removed the existing quarter, this piece over here was kinked. It was actually crushed. So I didn't change it, but what I did was, if you have a kink over here, you have to, like in this spot over here, you have to bang somewhere over here. So don't try and bang here, because that's a common thing to happen, because you actually have to pry this roof up a little to get this quarter panel off, and you're going to do some warpage. You can't just expect no reaction from moving this much metal. So my reaction was over here. It kinked it, because as this went up, this went in. So just remember that when you're messing with metal, you don't have to use much ridiculous blows. You just got to get a body hammer. This is the one I got. This one has been my friend throughout this whole process. I actually used the tip at this end, and if you have your dent over here, you can bang over here, or you can take this side, continuously bang, and it'll smoothen out that. It'll get it moving little by little. You don't got to use a lot of force. For this side, I got this in, welded it on. It's got a little bit more welds that I got to do, but for the most part, this is in, and got a few grinding to do. And once this is done, it'll be like it was never there. And I'm going to use as you can see, this line and this line isn't perfect. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to use a Dremel tool. It's a Dremel 4000. The reason I'm using that instead of just a regular cutoff wheel is because a Dremel is much thinner blade, and it will allow for me to have a much more precise cut going straight down. So I'm going to do that going down this whole thing, and you won't know it was there, even though this panel actually gets something else gets put on this. So either way, it's just a matter of my own knowledge. So that's that. Till next time.